Hi everybody, this is Rhys Barber from Audiology Associates. Thanks very much for watching that earwax removal video today. So at first glance, this patient's ear canal's really blocked in here, but it looks very wet at the entrance to the canal here. And we've talked about in videos before why it's wet at this entrance, because people use olive oil drops just before they come along, just to soften the wax up. But as soon as the suction goes on top of this wax, we can see that there's a very thin soft layer at the front end here, but this really tough wax plug sitting behind it. Now, the hairs you can see protruded all over the place here are not the little cilia, the tiny little hairs around the outside part of the ear canal. These are actually hairs that are growing from the very outer pinna that are crossing across the view a little bit here. So we've tried the suction tube, but it's not really working. So what we're going to do now is go in, this is the Rosen inserter, this little sort of very bent hooked like tool that we use. It's very thin, it's great for really hard wax, especially if there's only tiny little gaps just above the top. But you can see the difficulty here is this wax has gone very crumbly. So as soon as we get a grip on the outside edge, bits just start breaking away here with the Rosen inserter. So I'm just tidying the outside out, getting rid of all those looser little bits. That helps me then to see which is the next harder plug to get hold of. So what we've done now is just taken these looser sections we've just broken away with the Rosen inserter. You can see even as I'm pulling it out of the ear, even the larger chunks that have broken away, as soon as you start to pull them away from that main plug and start to pull them out the ear, even those are crumbling down to nothing. So a little bit more of a difficult one to do here. We like our wax to have a little bit more sort of consistency, to a little bit harder, because it means that we can usually pull the whole plug out in one go. When it's very crumbly like this, it becomes a lot more difficult to do, because as soon as you start to get a grip on it, a lot of the time little bits will start crumbling away. Now, let's get a grip on this bottom section here. That was a good sized piece that just attached. You can see it all getting sucked inside the machine. Somebody in the comment section actually asked, well, you know, where does the wax go when it disappears up the tube? We have a little tank on the front of the suction pump. Well, it's quite a big tank actually, but it's so big. And all the little bits get sucked inside there. So what you'll see me do when I bring them out is, a lot of the time, if lots of little bits have got sucked in, we'll swill at the end of the tube there in a little bit of water, and that just flushes the whole system through and just deposits all those little bits inside the tank. So what we're going to do now is get to these much deeper, harder pieces. You can see embedded in here these little tiny hairs. Now, these aren't the cilia hairs. These aren't the little ones from the outside edge. This is actually hairs, I presume, looking at this ear canal and how hairy the outer part is. This is actually little hairs that have been trimmed from the outer part of the ear here, getting into the ear canal, and then the wax doing its job, picking all the dirt and debris, and in this case little tiny hairs up, and binding it all together and working its way out to the ear canal. Unfortunately, in this case, it's dried out just a little bit too much, which is where it's hardened up. So we're having a bit of a tough job getting this plugged down. So I've gone back in now with the Rosen inserter. We're going to go over this back end of the wax here. Let's see if we can drop down just behind it. We can't quite get through that gap. So we're just going to pull this front section forwards here. Let's break all these little bits away. Why are we doing that? Because that plug at the front, you've got this really large piece at the back, which is almost the full size of the ear canal. It tapers down to a smaller chunk and then goes up to a bigger chunk here. So I need to get rid of this bigger chunk so I can start working on this bit at the back. And that's what we're doing with the Rosen inserter now. We're just breaking these little bits down, rolling the wax down the ear canal. So here it comes down. This is the outer section. You can see I've got that to the outer part. But as soon as I'm trying to pull this out, it's just disintegrating. It's all just exploded at the front. Not exploded, that's a bit extreme. It's just all kind of falling apart. That's a probably more accurate description, right? The entrance to the canal. So you can see now that big old chunk. Look at that, I gave you a twirl as well. You can see a little bit of dry skin at the back end of that wax as well. Oh, a little bit misty in here. Where that patient had been using some olive oil, some had got behind that initial front section, just coated the camera a little bit then. So now we can get to this darker, really tough old bit at the back. Let's lift this from the canal. You can see, look at the bottom there. That's a piece of dry skin that's actually just, sometimes when the wax is really hard, it'll rub against the side of the canal wall and your skin will go like this really white color, which is sort of dead, sluffy skin. And that's been sort of holding on to this piece of wax. This is why we've had such a bit of a dickens of a job getting this out, because that's been holding on to this last plug. But now we've got a grip on this last bit. Can we reposition this? It's a bit angular. We've got bits jutting out all over the place. There we go. It's coming away. Are we going to get this out the ear canal in one piece? Let's have a little look. Yeah, there we go. So you can see it was quite a kind of knobbly bobbly sort of wax. There was little bits going everywhere. Now what I'm working on here, there you can see that white layer just back towards the front end, back towards the front end of the camera, towards the camera front there. That last little bit of wax coming away. That's actually a little bit of dry skin and wax. But this piece is the piece I'm talking about here. Now look at this white section at the bottom. We do have a look at it now. The white section just at the bottom of the camera there. Just removing some looser bits at the top, so looser, harder bits there. You can see how this skin is drying out, forming these very thin plates. Now with the sluffy skin down the bottom there, now this can actually start to degrade part of the canal wall. So what I'm going to do here is just get a gentle grip on this and take the surface layer off. But can you see there that wetter material and that very, very red material underneath? Now that's actually a really tender bit of skin under there. Now you could keep keep pulling through this, and it's just going to keep taking that white layer off. The problem is then you're going to leave that skin really, really exposed to infection underneath. If that patient got their ear wet, you'll guarantee they'll get an infection with that. So what we're going to do is just take away the very top layer of dead skin debris on that white sluffy bit of skin, which is what we did there. Nice little piece of dry skin coming away there. And when we take that away, sorry, eardrum looks good. When we take that top dead layer away there, we're going to leave the skin underneath. There's just going to be a thin dead layer underneath. Now you'd say, oh God, why would you leave dead skin in somebody's ear? Well, because we're keeping that underside covered. It's going to form a little barrier. Now don't forget, the reason that skin was there in the first place, that wax had hardened up. Your jaw is doing this all the time. Well, people talk a lot like me. Your jaw is doing this a lot, and it's going to be rubbing against that hard piece of wax. And what you get then is it sort of gets moist, and it gets sort of looser. You know, if you've been in the water too long, your skin gets that kind of white layer to it. It's a bit like that, but then you've got this hard layer of skin rubbing against it, hard layer of wax, oh my goodness me, rubbing against it. Taking that top layer away. So yeah, now that's gone, what's going to happen is that skin can repair itself really well by leaving that top layer on there, almost like a little band-aid over the top of it. So it's just going to keep it protected, but it's going to allow the skin underneath to repair itself, and then that dead layer will work its way out then. Right, sorry, I talked right the way over the beginning part of this video, I'm so sorry. Yeah, lots of very dry, hard pieces of wax here as well. We've managed to get a lot of these pieces out already. Now we're just working on this sort of much deeper plug. There we go, look at that one coming away. That's a good, tough old plug, that one. So very, very dry. You can see it, a lot of hair, little tiny bits. You can see these little sort of crumbly bits. See how dense that hair is. Now, I know a lot of people are going to ask me in the comment section, do you ever trim the ear hair? Most of the time I don't need to. I mean, I can see perfectly well in here. Once you get past that initial front section of ear canal, you can see really, really well with the endoscope. This is why I prefer using the endoscope to other tools, really. But you can get a really, really good view in this, so we don't really need to. A lot of the time, I do know some practitioners, and they will actually pluck, they'll physically grab it with forceps and rip it out, which is not very nice for the patient, really. But the eardrum there looking lovely and healthy. This is what we removed. So you can look at the chunky bits in there. That's 5 centimeters, 2 inches worth of wax there, guys. So you can see a fairly full blocked set of ear canals there. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed that video as much as I did voicing it over. If you did enjoy the video, give us a thumbs up. If you really enjoyed the video, then subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, pop them into the comment section below. I'm doing really well at answering people's comments, and if it's a really good question, give it a thumbs up and I'll probably do a short video on it for you. But as always guys, take care of yourselves, take care of your ears, and take care of one another, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye everyone.